This module focuses on complying with the learner's appropriate playmands. What does complying with the learner's appropriate playmands look like? This is when the learner requests an item or attention from you, or when the learner asks for your participation in any appropriate play-related activity, and you give him what he wants or do what he asks. The learner can request by talking, gesturing, handing you toys, or using eye gaze. The goal is to comply with all of the learner's appropriate play-mands. Why should you comply with the learner's appropriate play-mands when pairing? Remember that the purpose of pairing is to establish good rapport with the learner. To do this, you want to associate yourself with highly preferred items or activities, such as by reinforcing the learner's mands. If you were to ignore or deny the learner's requests, you would instead be associating yourself with unpleasant situations. When is it okay to ignore or deny the learner's mands while pairing? Sometimes the learner will omit inappropriate mands, such as asking to leave the room or go home, or for you to engage in an inappropriate play-based activity like self-stimulatory behavior or something dangerous. You should not comply with these types of inappropriate mands. You can either ignore them or briefly comment in response to them and then redirect the learner back to a pairing activity. The following clips show examples of complying with mands. Kristen, the teacher, is wearing a black shirt, and Lauren, the student, is wearing a pink shirt. First, you'll see the student making appropriate requests using gestures and eye gaze. The teacher correctly complies with all of these mands.
Here's the mallet. Maybe you want the moles to hit them. The red one. I'll take a turn. Okay, I'll get it. Got him. And I'm going to get the green one. Want some trains? Oh, you got a white train and a blue one. You got a yellow train, too. More trains. Okay, go ahead. Chugga, 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 choo-choo. Oh, it's flying through the air. My turn to fly it. Here I go. Woohoo!
In the previous video, it might not have been particularly clear what the learner wanted when she held a toy out to the teacher. However, the teacher still did her best to try and comply with these mands. Here are some additional examples of the teacher correctly complying when the student appropriately mands using a combination of vocalizations, gestures, and eye gaze.
You're pushing the train with the monkeys. A train? Let's see which one you want. Dip. Oh, the orange one. Some blocks, maybe? There you go. Blue ones and yellow and green. Oh, the gray one? Sure, there you go.
Here are some examples of a student manding using whole words and phrases. Once again, the teacher correctly complies with all of these appropriate mands.
Train? Yeah, here's a train, a yellow and green one. Can I train? Yeah, sure, here's some trains.
Here are some examples of the teacher responding incorrectly to the learner's appropriate play mands. When the learner mands using eye gaze, gestures, or vocalizations, instead of complying with the mands, the teacher ignores them.
I'm gonna get the moles. I'll maybe stack them up like this. Oh, I'm gonna knock them over. I'm not sure what you want. Mallet. What? Oh, the mallet. That's what you wanted.
If the learner asks to leave the room or terminate the session, these are examples of the types of inappropriate mands that you should not comply with. In the following examples, notice how the teacher responds correctly by either ignoring or briefly commenting in response to these inappropriate mands, and then redirecting the learner to a pairing activity.
What else we can do with them? We can make them like a hat. Achoo! Train's gonna knock them over. Look out! Crash! Let's see if maybe you want to play something else. Some cars instead.
Bye.
The big red car. Oh, up your leg. Here it comes.
Did you notice how the teacher kept offering up one activity after another until she regained the learner's interest? Let's watch another example.
Hear the big ship's horn.
No more.
Well, we don't have to do that, but we can do something else. Maybe we could stack the blocks instead. There you go. Have some blocks. Got some blue ones. Here's a yellow block. A green one.
Go outside.
You know what? We can't go outside, but we could do some more blocks. We could try a new game. There you go. Sound it on. Some cool sounds. We're not gonna go home right now. Here. Oh, look at this thing. Get your hand. Oh, there's your hand. Squash.
As you saw in the previous examples, as long as the learner was not engaging in problem behavior, the teacher continued offering different activities until she rebuilt the learner's interest. Finally, here are some examples of what you do not want to do to respond to these inappropriate mands. In these videos, the teacher will either ignore the mands but continue to present the same activity, or will repeatedly comment in response to the mands over and over again.
Here's some blocks for you. Ooh, we got the ball.
Go outside. Go outside. Play with the ball outside. All done. All done.
Some more right from these. You can even hide the puzzle pieces in it.
All done. Call Mom.
No, we don't need to call Mom. It's fine. We can have fun here with stuff. We got lots of stuff here to have fun with.
Outside to Mom.
No, not outside either. We can have lots of fun in here. We can do whack-a-mole. We can play with the ball.
All done.
No, we don't. We're not gonna be all done yet. We have a few more minutes here, but we can get some new toys, maybe animals in the farm.
In summary, during pairing, you want to comply with all of the learner's appropriate requests for items, actions, activities, and interactions. In response to inappropriate mands to terminate the session or leave the room, you want to either ignore them or briefly comment on them and then redirect the learner.